There's too many people going through things in an isolated kind of way. This is what's creating even more problems in people's lives. They feel like they don't have that person to reach out and talk to. I just think, again, that's part of our why. I just want people to, if they're listening, to know that they are seen without being seen. We, like, humans should be able to relate to this, and how important it is that you do not keep trying to do things isolated.
For me, my why is like, I'm healing from my traumas and my insecurities and all my fears, and I want people to do the same because I want to see everybody win.
It's the podcast show, and I've got my girls, Ivy Roman with Healing with Ivy, my soul sister, Lauri Day, co-host with me on Two Broadcasters. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hi.
Sarah, awesome. Great to be
here. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, yep. We're missing, Drew Milden was supposed to be here, so he may pop in, he may not, we'll see. But we've got mugs of coffee, and I'm going to take a moment because there's one mug on the show today that is loving the faith one. Love this one, but what in the world? There's our fourth guest. It's
yes, yes.
It's the Greek God Show.
Now we have 5 guests because there's 2 faces on that mug.
Exactly.
I mean, that's awesome.
It's ostentatious, and I love every bit of it. And thank you, Ethan, for letting me borrow it, even though you don't know I am.
Uh-oh. He's not watching this episode, so
no,
it's all good.
He's all good with it, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, so we all have podcasts, and so this episode is about podcasting. And let's just jump right off the bat and talk about why in the world do we need podcasts? Why are they important? Do we need them? Like, what is up with this whole podcast thing? Because everybody's doing them. So why do we need these?
Well, like with social media, like everyone's visually and like digitally connected, but you really connect more when you hear someone's voice and you hear the intent and you hear the actual love for whatever topic that they're talking about. Like for Healing with Ivy, it's self-help, mental health. And it's all about my experience as a patient and the challenges that I have overcome and faced. And it's really raw, unedited. You get what you get. And once we hit end on the podcast, it's like you feel lighter. And that's what I hope for anyone that listens and anyone that it comes on as a guest, that you feel lighter about the topic that used to really carry that weight in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that very much. I would add that I feel strongly that podcasts fill a hole of when you're on your own. And sometimes, it's just you're driving, and sometimes you're just doing something to where you're busy doing something with your hands, but at the same time, either it's repetitious or there's something about it, and you're just looking for like getting the screen off. And I do agree with you, Ivy, in that I feel like there is a connection and a friendship that can actually take place, even though people aren't in the same space, but it's more real than a screen. There's, you can filter what you're saying, but at the same time, there's not all the other elements of filtering, scripting, and all that goes into podcasts. I think it's a real human to human type of medium. I think people somewhere inside of them yearn for just conversation and voice. And even though it is a one-sided conversation, you're joining in. It's making you think about things. You may be, writing things down because it inspired you about something. You may be, it prompted you to do something you've been thinking about. There's a lot of two-sidedness to it that I think that takes place with podcasting. I love the medium personally. I love the human voice. And so to me, it's a very welcome medium. And I'm not really surprised that so many people have jumped into it. And that what's exciting though, is I feel like there's still so many people to come on board to them.
Yeah, because then I was going to ask, do we really need more? And of course, I believe that we do, and I think it's a great way for people to let their voice be heard. It's an uncensored way to be heard. There's so many voices out there, so many of us that maybe we wouldn't have a platform, but you can start a podcast. And you
Right.
can find your community, you can find your niche, your group of people, and you can talk about anything you want to talk about. You can reach out to whoever you want to reach out to.
True. And I mean, the word need is we didn't need one of them. So, I mean, if you didn't need one, there's no limit as to how many that there can be. I mean, to me, somebody's voice through a podcast is as unlimited, is infinite as how many people there are. Who cares? Does it? And if it doesn't matter to you how many, how many do we need that are going to be Joe Rogan show, whatever. I mean, I'm just saying that not everybody might get into those number spheres, but that's not the point either, is it? And if your voice, not everybody's voice connects the same way to everybody listening. So I think podcasts are a cool way to find your sort of your background. And I like them even better than reading books on tape. Books, I used to do all that while reading, but again, you're not. If the book is really good, of course, you're enveloped in the story of the book. But unlike podcasts, you're not getting involved in the actual perspectives and the person that's live behind a microphone in the same way. And so to me, it's a great way to engage your mind and your ears and your heart while, not having to stare at another screen,
Yeah, I totally get that, because even with Healing with Ivy, and I explained this on my first episode, I felt like I had no voice because I cloned myself in many different avatars. That's what I called it, different versions of myself to fit in different groups to make other people feel comfortable. And it's not about making other people comfortable. It's about living within your own truth and being who you are and being genuine and being authentic. Yeah. And when I come across podcasts that are like, authentic and they have a great message, even if it's just about sports, just something, it's amazing to hear, for me, someone that is passionate about something so strongly that they want to continue, because the internet's forever. Like once we publish an episode, that's going to be there until the day we go, and it's beautiful. If, let's say, for example, my stepmother passed away from thyroid cancer, sometimes it's hard for me to remember her voice, and it's the voice that brings those emotions and that love, right? So how amazing would it be for my future children or grandchildren to just listen to my podcast and be like, oh, Ivy went through this. Okay, this is something that I can navigate through. This was what she went through. Let me see how I can, it's something that we get to leave behind, evidently.
Yeah. Very true.
Great way to look at it. And
I love that.
Yeah, they're as unique as each person that does the podcast.
Exactly.
So yeah, they're limitless because they're all, even if it's in the same genre or category, there could be 500 murder mystery podcasts, but they're all going to be a little different because the people that are, presenting them are different. And so I think it's a great space. I think it's a great space, like you said, Ivy, to be heard, to have your voice out there and to do all of those very, very different things. And there's so many different ones. And it's like, I could scroll through and there's a new one every week. And there's ones that I haven't found. And just when you think that you scrolled through this category, as many times as you have, oh, here's a new one I didn't see, before. So
life gets busy. Life gets so busy, and sometimes we don't have a second to ourselves, and all we have is our headphones and our phone. And sometimes we need that connection, and especially like my faith, my church, my pastor posts every sermon on Spotify and through all the platforms, and if I miss a Sunday because of whatever the case, I'm still connected. So continuing that community, continuing that connection is so important.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's an easy to share. That just here's a link. Hey, I heard this great thing. Just share this link. To somebody. But let's not forget the video podcast, because Coffee and Words. We're all about video. But it's great because what I'm doing here, you don't really have to watch. You don't have to look at it. Just pull it up on YouTube, and you can listen to it in the background also.
Well, exactly.
Yeah, when I'm
Exactly.
cleaning. Yeah, definitely. And just
Yeah.
it's the same vibe. And then, you take a quick look, it's like you see that smile and you're just like, oh, and it's just you just keep going and just keep going. And that's the best part about it.
Yeah.
Lauri and I do the Two Broadcasters, which is a traditional podcast, but when we run that, we get to see each other on video. So we don't show the video to the world, but we get to sit there and see each other via our, what are we on? Zencaster, which is great. So it just, that's a whole extra level of experience for that as well. And I will pause for just a moment so we can look at the hashtag van life vibes that you've got going there. In your
Yeah. Listen, I'm falling, I guess, into that nomad creative, whatever. You know me, I'm not big on these names. Don't label me, bro.
That's me too.
But as far as it goes, this is my, we got a little outdoors, side doors open. You can't see that much, but this is the back of my van. I got a little, mic stand attached to my counter here, which is
we're in the kitchen.
Underneath has all the fridge and the cooking stuff and the toilet. Okay.
Essential.
Behind me is my bed. Can you see my bed?
Yeah.
And listen, my brother built this thing out. It's completely finished out. It's got beautiful floors, walls, ceiling. It's awesome. It's very unsuspecting on the outside, but it's got what it needs on the inside. It's a little metaphor on wheels.
Oh,
I love that. That is so. I love that.
I love it so much, and I kind of love that my van doesn't look so flashy. I mean, people with Sprinter vans are constantly getting their stuff robbed. So,
for sure, you have expensive equipment in there for sure.
Yeah, and my stuff is not, like the inside of my thing is where I'm in it. So what do I care too much about the cosmetics? And I got a great deal on this van. It only has 100,000 miles on it still, and that's after me plowing through about putting 7,000 miles on it. And it's old, but it's ready to go, right? So right now I'm just in Lincoln outside my brother's house, but planning my next thing. I'm actually planning on maybe living in the Baja Peninsula this winter.
Nice.
So yeah.
All right, road trip. I'm coming to hang out with you.
That's right. That is right, Sarah. We're gonna be two broadcasting, figuring all that out via the Baja editions. Yes. But no, listen, I really think that podcasting is here to stay. I mean, there's no way the numbers and the people onboarding all the time, new audiences to podcasts. And sometimes, like I think I mentioned on a podcast of ours, was that people start listening to podcasts once they know a podcaster. I know for sure we've got a lot of listeners who have never listened to a podcast before. This is how a lot of them will onboard. Now, some people are quasi famous or have their name or their niche and stuff already. And so they already have this following. And so the podcast is another level of that. But when you're out here grinding from scratch, completely organic from just the get-go of starting a podcast, it's a long haul, but it's that first 1,000 people or whatever, even the first 100 to 200 that I really believe is the roots of the show. And eventually, if you keep showing up, they do start spreading the word. Those are your true believers that first come on board. And a lot of times people won't share things though until, even if they're not intentionally holding back sharing it, I think there's a certain thing that most people kind of go, I'm going to share this once I feel like, or you just hear that one episode, you go, oh, nope, there's no way I can't not share this to X, Y, or Z, But this is where once that gets momentum, it turns into a beautiful organic numbers increase. But it's for you too, Ivy, for what your content is, you're engaging this with a premise of community behind it. And Sarah and I's is very much the same. We hope we're speaking to people who at any given time needed to hear what we said. And because there are things that I think hit human condition observations through our experience, or things people are trying to do or get out there and do, or are scared to do, or this, that, and the other thing that we're kind of throwing in on those kinds of topics. So it's very wide range in what we're talking about. But I feel like everything we've talked about could very well speak to people in a way that's community building, without us having to be experts.
Exactly.
We're hitting people as I'm your friend. Yeah, I'm your friend. We're your friends here. And, we've gone through some stuff. We're going to share it, we're going to remind you of things you probably already know, but we want to be those voices that can help build a community for this and people.
To know the hosts of a podcast, you feel like you know them. And then even though you may not know the other listeners, you feel a connection to them. So if you find out that somebody listens to that podcast, yeah, man, I do too. Oh my word. What'd you think about Tuesday's episode? And
exactly.
Yeah, that's the best part.
Yeah.
Especially when they want more. They're like, why? Like, with Healing with Ivy, it started weekly, but then, I was brand new. I was super green and it was a lot. I didn't have the right tools yet either. So a lot of that kind of stopped me a little bit. And, I made a decision. It's like, you know what? I'm going to switch the podcast to once a month. And, then from there, just gradually get into the swing of things. Because in order for me to, that's in my trailers, like my mess is my message. So in order for me to be very true to like my platform, they're getting real situations that are taking place. In my most recent episode, with Fiona, Hurricane Fiona, Uncut, I talk about, a really miraculous situation where I might not have been able to make it because of Hurricane Fiona, because I probably would have been stuck in Dominican Republic. But, you can hear the gratitude, you can hear, all that amazing stuff. And it's, what if someone's afraid of flying but wants to go to Dominican Republic? Well, Ivy was in front of a storm and she made it home. So that means I can make it home too. It helps people get out of their fears and kind of give themselves a chance to discover life and discover their journey.
Yeah. And honestly, my hope is that, and I feel strongly that just the real person's podcasts are the ones that are going to actually become a huge segment of listeners.
Mm-hmm.
Because listen, if you're looking for something to research and you want to find an expert on something, that's fine. Maybe you share the same wheelhouse of industry for what you do. That kind of sans working or research for entertainment or connectivity. I think if somebody's going to connect to Ivy or Sarah or I in a way that's much more impactful than they would to a celebrity.
Exactly.
Because there's already a preordained, like expectation or thing about that person that you think that when you're hearing them now and this, that, and the other thing, you're never going to get past that, where you're not really knowing any more than you did if you just keep saw them on People Magazine or TMZ, whatever. I feel like it's not to say that somebody can't have a great podcast that's in that sphere. I just am here to say that a lot of people, I think, misunderstand that the podcast world is, you need to be an expert, and we could get into that whole thing about what that even means. But you either need to be an expert or you need to already sort of be kind of famous within whatever sphere you're in. And I'm here to say, I don't think that's true at all. And I think there's going to be some real big breakout. There already has been some big breakout podcasters that literally had other things they were doing and might have had a modicum of success at it, whatever, but they weren't like any kind of names of, fame. But they had the desire to share what they know or things they feel strongly about, this and the other thing. And next thing you know, this podcast is getting like a lot of download activity on it. And there's like all these sort of small podcast conventions and stuff now where people are going and hearing people that a lot of people have never heard of. And it's awesome. Yeah. It's creating a whole nother level. And unlike influencers on the social media, there are some real raw, authentic ones, but it also is comprised of a lot of best life. I want this to look like a best life type premise, right? Which we just don't need any more of that, I think is what I'm
No, we
saying.
need real. We need
Exactly
we
my
need
point.
real. We need the most authentic. Like if you're crying and you're having a bad day and you make it a reel and you're promoting the podcast because you're showing that, hey, just because you hear my voice strong and firm, this is a weak moment I go through, and I just want to remind you you're not alone. And
Yeah.
if you need help, like if you feel like, I always, even in my reels, I'll put in like the number to text if you're feeling suicidal, or the number to call if you're feeling suicidal. Just resources, you're already on an app, you're already on your phone. So get off the social media, get the help you need. And while you're getting help, if you feel like you need to relate to someone that's been through some things,
Yeah.
come listen.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's awesome.
It's another form of media. For so many years, we were used to just turning on the television or we turned on the radio. But now with podcasts, there's a whole world that's open to all of us where we can build that community. And I love that you're doing that, Ivy. And I think, yeah, it's so good to really, we need to see that real side of all of us, because that's something that social media has definitely done, is shown the best of the best, where we don't want to show the mess. We'll show that perfect little area that we've kind of cultivated, but then there's a mess over here. We don't want to show that. And like, I want my watchers and listeners to know that I get nervous still before a lot of these. And I'm coming on, especially depending on who the guest is. And it's like, oh man, do I have my notes right? Do I need notes? And okay, let's make sure I've got my head in the game. I get nervous. There's a level of anxiety. I think being real and putting yourself out there is so crucial, to just say, hey, I'm just like you. Let's be real together and let's have a conversation.
If you think about corporate America, like, work culture, right? Everyone's talking about quiet quitting. And it's like, yeah, I think we've all been quiet quitting because at a certain point in time, we stopped believing in our own dreams and just stuck with whatever paid our bills and whatever kept the roof over our heads. We haven't been as bold and dared to actually go after what we love. And I feel like as podcasters, if you wanted to be a radio host but never got the opportunity, never had the experience, okay, you have a podcast and you can create from your creativity something beautiful, a beautiful message. Yeah. So it's like that aspect.
It's so open. Anyone can do it. And if you don't like one podcast over here, you don't have to listen to it. Support that, hey, they're doing the thing. If it's not the thing, you go over here to this one. But let's, shout out to everybody who's doing it, who's showing up. And I do kind of want to hit on that and sort of the ups and downs of that. But we got to take a quick minute to look at Ivy's background, because you're debuting your new set on my show. Is that right?
Yes, I'm completely. So this is going to be season 3's new set for Healing with Ivy, and season 2 is going to get towards the end of the year. It's going to get this background too, because it's so gorgeous. How can you not? But it definitely took much longer than what I anticipated. I thought because it was wallpaper, 5-10 minutes easy, but obviously I am not an interior designer as I pretend to be in my mind. I am not that skillful in that area. And podcasting is exactly where I need to be. So I just love it. It's a lavender flowers. It's, wallpaper everything's from Amazon, cost me under $60. And this just is a testament that no, you have the right supplies. You don't have to have a studio, you don't have to have fancy tech. I actually started with like a $30 mic that wasn't even the right mic for me, for my podcast. And just over time, I just started upgrading and on my own finances what I could handle. And now I have this beautiful background, and I'm also going to have an official co-host for Healing with Ivy season 3. And not going to say her name, but you'll have to tune in for season 3 in 2023.
Oh,
that's awesome.
Wow. Yeah, I started this show with just a MacBook Air with the built-in camera and the built-in mic. So season 1 until the first part of season 1 of Coffee and Words, that's what you're getting. And it's pretty obvious that's what you're getting, but the quality was good for what it was. And it just goes to show, like you're saying, you don't have to put a lot of money into it. Just get started. You'll build as you go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, let's
It
talk.
is a wonderful niche, by the way, for that. A lot of things feel exclusionary because of the financial part of it, cameras, if you're getting into videos, making videos, this, that, and the other thing. I mean, there's just a lot of mediums that do take a lot more money. Not podcasting is not one of them. So
Yeah.
it's awesome.
I would say too, I don't want anybody to be discouraged. So if you're watching this and, because there is the whole thing about if you're going to make it on YouTube, make sure your video quality is got to be this, you got to compete with everybody else, but don't let that discourage you from doing the thing. Whatever the thing is that you want to do, go ahead and get started. Just get in there and find your niche, find your space, and just do it and have fun. And then go from there, grow from there, and build, from that point. But don't feel like I have to have all of this in place before I start the thing, because then you may not start the thing.
Right.
And you're all
Might get
out on your
discouraged.
content.
Yeah, the content is what's most important. The rest of it, people don't care. If your content's worthy, the rest does not matter. I mean, assuming they can see you at all or hear you well enough. If the content's there, that's it,
And the
and you
person.
can't, money can't buy that, is what I'm saying. It's that stuff that money can't buy that's most important to find in an audience.
Yeah, and I suggest, like, anyone that wants to start a podcast, take advantage of the season that we're in right now. I used to work in retail. We are going towards the holiday seasons. Keep your eyes open for deals. That way you're saving money, you're chasing your dream, and you're starting to build something that can help others grow or shift their perspective. You never know.
Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely.
Well, a lot of podcasts get off the ground and maybe a few episodes in, and then they kind of sort of they stop. Maybe you kind of go on there and you'll see where somebody has a few episodes, and maybe that was a year ago or 6 months ago or whatever, and they don't have any more. So why is it so difficult to kind of keep going, and why do we think that maybe happens? And I want to offer some support for people and there's lots of reasons, but I think if you're not growing very quickly in the beginning, it can be discouraging.
Of course, because they forgot their why. Your why is why you started, why you want to do it, what's the message you want to share.
Yeah.
And if you're starting a podcast that is something that you sort of like, or a hobby, and you're kind of over it, of course you're going to be over the podcast because it's within that same category. So if you are looking to grow your podcast, just be patient, be consistent, and just be you. I'd rather be on the phone, and Sarah, actually, we were on the phone just last week, like for an hour and a half. Yeah, we're on the phone for an hour and a half. Like, just if you're not too sure about how to speak with people, just have long conversations, have intentional conversations where you get ideas. How many times has a friend of mine in the podcast community saying, hey, I have this guest, I'm running ideas for questions. All right, send me what you have. Support your fellow podcasters on top of that, and lean on each other, especially when you're getting discouraged.
Yeah, definitely. And that one download, if that person needed to hear what you had to say versus 300 downloads or whatever, in a day or a week, that maybe they're just passing through, how important is that if we're reaching even one person that needed to hear our message?
Exactly. And that's the thing. Listen, hear me say this. Do not get in podcasting if you're looking for quick notoriety.
Don't get on YouTube. You're looking
or YouTube. No. And so, Ivy, you nailed it. You have to know your why. And if your why is, I want to kind of make a name for myself quick, then find another thing. Then you best be suited more in the influencer realm or whatever. TikTok. I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Podcasting, YouTube, not the thing for sure. So knowing your why is absolutely what life boils down to in everything, actually. That's how we learn boundaries, because people do things they don't know why they're doing them, because they think they're supposed to do them, or somebody invited them to do it, or this, that. And it's like, what's your why though? Why are you doing it? Why are you going? Why are you having this? that's just an important life hack right there, is knowing your why. Definitely essential in podcasting. I do think, though, to Sarah's point about why people don't make it, like ours is new and we're doing it weekly. And of course, we're trying to deal with two people's schedules. So I can see where anybody who's had a co-host, that's just yet another layer, right, for this, from the scheduling end of it, and not knowing exactly what's going on in their day that day and this, that, and the other thing. You know, that there's now a double thing of, what do we bring into this? Is it too much? Is it too weird? Is this a bad day? And I don't know. We got it scheduled, though. We're going to do it. So in the co-hosting realm, that you're adding that pressure, just challenge. It's not bad.
It's more of a challenge.
Yeah, it just is what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think short of that, even if you're doing podcasts by yourself, when you first start out, you think, oh, weekly, no problem. You know, like we debated about doing bi-weekly, actually, and then moved off of that. I was being extremely conservative in my thoughts to this, but I also thought, yeah, but listen, I feel like I'm so excited. I've been wanting to do a podcast for so many years. I'm super enthusiastic about it. I really want to have a podcast for a long haul. My why is pretty strong. And I thought, well, why not? I mean, there's all these topics on our hearts, my heart, Sarah's, whatever. A lot of them we agree with in terms of, yeah, that's a good topic. Seem like, well, we got the material, right? But what you do find out, though, is how fast a week goes by. And even if you have this list of content, et cetera, and even if you're not a podcast that uses show notes, and even if you don't, it's something you can just talk about at any given time, you do still realize, though, that you got to have your heart in the game. You got to think about it. You got to do some marinating on it before you turn the mic on, in a way that says, I'm here showing up for you, and I'm trying to bring the best possible me despite whatever's happening in my day. If it's going to heck in a handbasket, we're probably going to share that. But at the same time, I'm trying to keep the content to where I feel like people are getting something out of it, whether it's they're having a chuckle, they're having an idea, it pushed a button on something they want to remember, it reminded them of something they kind of want to deal with somebody else, just whatever that can be. And maybe it's just having fun, making fun of us. We don't care to that extent, but it is a challenge feeling like you're bringing consistent content every week. I will say that, because I'm not out of ideas, but showing up weekly, you just really have yet another respect for how fast a week goes by. And you're like, oh, okay. And I get nervous every time we do a podcast. I've been writing a blog since March, and I still get nervous every time I sit down to write and put out that blog. That's
because you don't look nervous, you don't seem nervous. You've like got it all together, and we're all gonna feel that way. So I think it's so good that we all need to
share that. Yeah,
have people
100%.
We forget that sometimes. We feel
and what we forget is that if our cause is real, we're not alone, and we just need to be showing up. It's not about me having all the perfect words every second. Exactly. They come. And so of course I believe that. And some people may or may not, but I know it to be true for me. On days where I really don't know if I've got enough to really feel like I'm adding intelligible or inspiring, whatever, somehow the words show up anyway, because I think part of it's just that, we showed up, exactly. and we do love what we're talking about today, or we feel like it's important,
And I think for me, it's easier. Everything that I do in the podcasting world, I'm feeding off somebody else or a group of people. So Ivy, yours is just you a lot of the times, unless you have a guest on. You interview some people here and there. What is it like to do a whole show with just you?
It is nerve-wracking. Like, if you think you get nervous because you have a guest, when you have the responsibility that everything you say, people are going to listen. And I have this thing about me that people take my words to heart. Like, they really listen, and they really want to try the suggestions that I give them. And, you know, I just really just sit there. I drink my water. I take my time. I don't force myself to be on a timeline to record, because when I record is all raw, unedited. I don't sit there and edit how many times I said like, how many times. I don't do all that. You're gonna get how I am. You're gonna hear me mature in how I speak through the podcast, because I'm in college and my verbiage is changing for the most part. And what I do is that I sit down and I just think about, I'm sitting down having a glass of wine, a glass of whatever, mug of coffee, whichever is at the moment, depending the topic. This moment right now, coffee for sure. But I just sit there and I think, all right, they had a bad day and they could relate to what you're saying. So speak to them like if you were just their friend. And you know, my husband's close friend, can we say names on this podcast? Because my podcast, I don't say names.
It's up to you. That would be entirely up.
Okay. So my husband's friend, Jesus, he literally pulled my husband aside during my comedy show, before I was about to perform. And he said, yo, your wife is amazing. Just the way she can just have her podcast and it's like she's sitting right next to you speaking with you. And I was like, that's the intention. That means what I'm doing is right, and everything else, the numbers, everything else will come. Just keep showing up, work through, you know, find a rhythm that helps you get through your nerves in a way that is healthy, and that you're able to process. There's been many times that I start getting fidgety in my own seat and I'll punch the mic. So I've done it. I've been there, done that. Everything is natural, and you know, don't try to edit anything out.
Yeah, my youngest son is
always... See, I've done that more than once. I've literally straight like uppercut my mic.
Sorry, kids.
It's okay.
My foot just pulled the cord out of the mic.
I've done that too.
You went radio silent on me.
Oh no.
Sorry for the visual awkwardness there. Sorry, Jill.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, Karen.
Yeah. Well, and my young son is always talking about how, and I'm trying to be more still during my show because I'm a mover. You know?
Me too. I'm fidgety.
Like, you're doing this all the time. So, still the statue, but no. Well, I mean, let's talk about struggles, tech difficulties, hardships. What's your biggest struggle in your podcast? I had to throw tech difficulties in there because Lauri and I have some stories. Let me tell you.
I have been on other people's podcasts and not heard them because of technical difficulties. Like their voice changed and different. And I'm just there like, I'm here for attendance. I have a pretty face. I hope we get downloads. Like that's all I can do. It's like, all right, just keep smiling, just keep looking around and
keep smiling.
You know, just smile through the pain for real, even if you're on video.
True that. I mean, listen, we've been through all of that tech stuff, and it's, I know it's not gone, you know, and then add to it my tech difficulties on my end with the platforms. I mean, this has been totally like an adventure of starting a podcast in that we're learning as we go. There was no refining, no classes taken, no, I wished I would have learned the platforms better. No, well, listen, until you have a live recording, you don't have anything to put in the platforms anyway. So you got to just go with it. And like ours, like yours, Ivy, is not edited. It's just what it is, you know. And I don't care to ever change that, honestly. Yeah. And I think it'll be awesome too, to like notice in retrospect later the kind of the difference that it sort of started to take. And we're not, our whole podcast is not about trying to be slick. And again, podcasting is not the space where that's required. You don't want staticky, I mean, obviously there's a level, you know what I'm saying, but if people can hear it you know, and it's not ridiculous. Or if it gets kind of ridiculous, you at least address it to people. You laugh about it. You know it's awkward, because it awkwards me out every time. I'm like, okay, I don't. Sarah is on a roll, and I haven't been able to hear her for 5 minutes. You know, we're texting each other and stuff, and you're trying to pretend like I keep talking as though I'm not breaking into a sweat right now, you know, because I can't text and continue this role in the same way in which I'm so preoccupied now, right? So it's going off the rails, kids, you know, but you're trying not to let it just completely go off the rails. So you're like, okay, either her voice is going to come back on, or I'm going to have to say something, you know. And sure enough, this one time, this probably fits into the what was your biggest, weirdest kind of podcast moment. And it was a time I lost Sarah for so long, and listen, I just kept going, you know, and going, and at a point I was just like, all right, I'm on a roll here as though I'm on this podcast by myself. And maybe it crossed my mind, it's like, and maybe that's how this is going to end up rolling out. Well, Sarah ended up sending me a message saying, just roll it out if you need to, you know. I got nothing over here. So I'm trying to look at her text. I'm trying to text her back. I'm trying to keep track of what we were talking about. And finally, it just got to the point there where I go, listen, ladies and gentlemen, just so you know, I have been just winging this in a way that I didn't expect to, because honestly, Sarah was kind of on a roll. I gave her a quick answer. I gave her a quick input, but I didn't expect, she was kind of the one on the roll. I don't know what this is going to end up sounding like. So, this is what we got. This is what we got, folks. Listen, you're not coming to these two broads for any tech advice, or any glitzy acting like we're got our lives all together, because even in the podcast realm, we clearly do not.
I was in my vehicle the first few episodes that we did. I am sitting in my Forerunner like this with the computer screen here and a mic here, and I'm twisting and
she's twisting, so her voice is
hurting for you.
same. And like her voice would go in and out, and it was just like, but at the same time, it was just like, gave us fodder for the cast too. It was like, oh, Sarah's on the city streets and the mean streets of Dixon right now, trying to pull up to wherever's got the strongest signal, you know, for her to be able to jump in. It's during the day. People are walking up and down the streets. She's twisting and turning to a microphone. And I'm like, the irony of this is that I'm supposed to be the one remote, like in a vehicle. And meanwhile, I can never find a place to sit outside in my van that has strong enough Wi-Fi. So I'm like the person that's always in the library, somebody else's house. You know, it's just ridiculous. So we're a real grab bag when it comes to tech situations. And look, I haven't come in.
There was a time where I had a guest. I was recording an episode, and out of nowhere, the entire like platform like just goes out, disappears. My camera was still on, and I'm just like this the whole time. What do I do now? And I'm freezing because I'm going through it, but I don't have anyone to nudge me like, yo, get through this, like kind of push through. And I lost the episode. I lost an hour worth. Apparently I reached out to Riverside. They were able to help me recover it, and I haven't gone through it because literally the way they recovered it, it's me on one side, like completely different audio and video file, and then my guest is on a complete different. So now I have to sit there and try to edit. And I was like, I don't know. I think I'm just going to invite him back and we just do another one. Just do a different topic. Because we had a great conversation. We had fun. And it's the silly, and it's the girl from the Bronx that a lot of people don't get to see. My Bronx comes out. My New York.
There we go. Yo, Bronx. Yep. Shout out to the Bronx.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That is awesome. No, it's weird. Like, you never know on any given day what the internet's doing, even if you think you have great internet. I mean, And then just learning the platforms for me. Look, I'm a gal who's just always, from the beginning of having a computer, has just learned the amount she needs to learn. It's not my bailiwick. I don't like it. I don't like tech. I just don't like it. I like it as a means of expression and a means to things that you can do to be, more productive or whatever. But I'm not razzle dazzled by tech stuff. I don't really care. So I don't know a lot of lingo. When I got into these platforms, it was just it was assuming too much for me that I understood even what these buttons mean. I'd be like tech support a question, and they'd be like, well, you just need to hit the such and such button. And then what that does, I'm like, yeah, but what does that do? That's the problem. I didn't know what it did, or I'd have hit on it already. You know what I'm saying? I mean, listen, and then you go, oh, and then like, well, we have links for things. Yeah, why aren't those on here? This is what I want to know. So I got to Google this stuff separately to be able to find the links for you as the company who's doing it. You should have this stuff already, right? So I'm just not that. Listen, I've just wasted a lot of time. It was very stressful for me. I want to turn on the microphone, see Sarah's face. We want to get into it. That's what I want to do. Exactly. That's what I want to do. All this other stuff is you have to do it stuff. I will say this to people, not as a discouraging thing, but just know you're going to do some of this stuff won't be the stuff you like to do in regards to the podcast. And my whole goal was, can we just get it to where it's pushed out? I mean, I was probably one of the happiest, most joyful I've felt in so long, the day that I got that thing that says, oh, it's up on Spotify. Oh, it's up on one. I'm like, wait, what? Holy, this is fantastic. Woo! I mean, it's actually out there. It gave me goosebumps. I was so elated about that. I mean, it was, and I'm still just in awe. Like every time I hit produce, this thing goes out there. I'm just like, here we go. It's out there. Like it's out there on all these platforms. This is so weird and exciting at the same time. I love it so much, but there was a lot of hair pulling and a lot of frustration and a lot of days I didn't want to come back to it because I just was getting tired of getting nowhere with it. And then on top of that, trying to figure out where I can access Wi-Fi, which is just not, I can't roll out of bed. Oh, there's my Wi-Fi. That's not where my life is. So that made it even a little bit more stressful. So I drug that thing out more than probably I would have if I'd have just been sitting at home in my normal comfort of, all the things I used to have. But just hear me say this, people who want to start a podcast, there's going to be some of this you just don't like to do. And I don't like to do the social media, but I figure,
Believe
listen,
it or not.
Listen, I can't stand it. I can't stand it because I have to do it for my blog as well. And so between the two of them, neither one of them is getting enough. Let me just say that. I'm just doing what I can. I'm trying to give myself grace and know that I'm aware of it. And I've started stockpiling more so I don't have to make it from scratch every time. I mean, there's just more to this than people think once you're literally promoting something that you feel is of value.
I mean, you're everything. You're everything. You're producer, editor. You are the marketer. You are the PR. Like you wear many. You're a podcaster entrepreneur. Like
right.
That's basically what it is.
Right, exactly. But it's not what you do full time.
Exactly.
I mean, If that were the case, I wouldn't be even sounding like I'm even near complaining, but because I'm really not. But it's just my reality. That is our, if we had a challenge, it would be that, in that it's just hard to get around to doing all the things that you want to do. I also say this. I feel like I've learned a lot about patience in my life. And sometimes there's a reason beyond what you think is the reason for not having to hurry everything. Part of me feels like I do really want this podcast to grow very organically. The amount of downloads we've had, considering the amount of production that I put out there in terms of social media and stuff, quite frankly, I'm stunned over. Because it's not like there's all these different ways people are hearing about it. There's not. They're either hearing about it through Instagram or Facebook, the one thing I put out, or the 2 things a week I put out, or whatever. That's it. That's it. And so when we have the numbers we have, I'm like, wow. So part of me just feels like we're still growing and learning. And I feel like all that's going to culminate together. This is how you find a crew, is like they just love it so much, and they bring a skill set that you don't have, but to get that, for me, it's not like something I'm out there seeking, because we'll find each other. You know what I mean? I didn't start a podcast to go like, this is my $1 million Willy Wonka ticket right here. Yep, it sure is. And I'm going to beat this thing till it does it. That wasn't my why.
Cool people. That was my jam.
Exactly. I'm inspired by people, by talking to people, about people, for people. And I feel like that's what the world needs. If any of our voices can add, like Ivy said, one person, they went, man, did I need to hear that? That's my why. That's my why. And I'm not trying to be the voice. I'm trying to be a voice. And for some people, my voice is how they'll hear something. And for other people, they can't hear what I'm saying. It's just, that's the beauty of it. It's a very individualized situation here. And I love podcasting for that. It's wonderful. So, but yeah, I feel like that's definitely the challenge for me is how do you make it grow? And at the same time, getting through all the tech stuff and whatever, but just showing up every week still,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
At the end, just show up, because you're going to have a bad day or not so great day, or a day that you're going to second guess yourself, but that's okay. Just show up and do it, and you'll get better.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
I'm so sorry.
No.
And it's also like nurturing the relationship you have with your co-hosts, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 6, whatever the number is, making sure that that relationship is nurtured in a way that your chemistry and your friendship is so raw and so natural that people will try to find friendships and relationships that mirror that, so they have healthier lifestyles in a way. It's like everything dominoes into each other. And I'm a huge believer, if you nurture the relationships, then those are your people for life. And that's when you really show that rawness.
Very cool point. Very cool point, Ivy. I mean, I think that was one of the things that made me decide that Sarah mentioned doing a podcast many years ago. And at the time it was like, I didn't really know for sure what it was supposed to be about. And she just loved the idea of us doing a podcast together. And it never even really got that far. And my life was just in a space where it was just like, nope, super into the idea of a podcast. Timing just felt wrong. And then, a few years went by, whatever. Sarah was getting involved with some other things, this, that, and the other. And I was like, okay, I'm going to start a podcast. And there was a couple different ideas that I had. And they were sort of more thematic about what the thing was going to be about. But they were, again, I had two different ideas, and they were both different. So I just never really settled on it. And then through all the COVID and everything, I got real serious about a podcast, but it was just such a struggle, as it was for everybody getting through that time. And I was literally just trying to survive, and not lose my mind. And it was whatever. But when I packed up and changed my entire life, and left Nashville, I left telling people, is like, I'm going to start writing and I'm going to start a podcast. And that's really the reasons why I'm selling everything I own. I mean, I'm literally uprooting my entire life to do this. I know my why. My why is pretty strong. My why speaks for itself. And because I knew these weren't going to be money-making endeavors. And so I couldn't maintain what I was trying to maintain in Nashville with my cost of living and running a company and all this stuff. I'm like, something's got to give. For me to work in something new, some old stuff's got to give. And basically it means literally everything. and then I'm still going to have to figure out how to live. But I'm going to get in a way that it's not like this huge nut, for me to carry. And so I feel strongly that when I decided to start the actual podcast, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. We can hear
you guys. Okay. Cause hold on.
Everything apart today.
This is the raw and uncutness.
Well, we're trying to make a point. I'm just here doing my share, making my point.
Listen,
Okay.
I love the illustration.
So-
I'm here for it.
So-
Yeah, I'm gonna reapply some lip gloss, right? So I want to show people that you can do anything, and there you go.
That's it. Sorry, kids. Oh man, but this is how it is. I didn't forget where I was at. I revisited this whole when I started the actual thing. I decided I don't want to be the only voice. I from the get-go was like, and listen, I could be, no one told me I couldn't be. But I went back to the Sarah idea when she approached me. And so we went back and I was like, Sarah, listen, I think I'd really rather not be a solo person on the podcast. I said, I think there's a beauty to the chemistry and just having enough. I don't want to be an echo chamber of myself. It just feels weird. I'd be much more comfortable in a conversational style podcast. And luckily she was still game for the whole thing. But honestly, you brought up a really great point that Sarah and I do have a great natural friendship that's never been anything, anybody's trying to impress each other. It's like, no, we have so many mutual interests. And we've been down some similar paths, not on the same name street, but definitely the same neighborhoods, definitely the same things we've both gone through some things that we both are so relatable in our hearts. And so we know what it's like to get knocked and keep standing up, and boom, there it comes again, and boom, there it comes again. And you keep getting back up and keep getting back up. And that's just part of what Sarah and I think is our mission to share, And so I love that. I love that maybe I should be cultivating my relationship with Sarah more. I don't know, soul sister. I mean, I will say I don't take it. I don't take.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I thought it was I thought it
Soul
was
sister.
a soul. I thought it was a little moment. I was kind of.
It is.
Okay.
It's our thing, that we stole from my son and his friends, but soul sister. So that's our thing. And so that's a beautiful thing that you said, though. If you're going to have a co-host on here, on your show, make sure it's somebody that, it goes beyond just like the businessy thing, I think, because listen, if something comes up in each one of our lives, we're going to be able to come at it from, okay, we got the cast to think about, but more importantly, we're friends. And what do we need to do to rally that's number one. And because we're friends too, we're both on the same page about what we can, we wouldn't share and we're game for that, but if you're in a relationship with a co-host who's coming from a different privacy point of view or a completely different, there are just things that you should think about there, right?
For sure.
And cultivating that relationship is very important. I love that you brought that up.
Yeah,
I love that. I mean, I haven't really thought about that in that way.
It comes back to just overall boundaries. You have personal, you have professional. So, if your co-host is someone very personal and close to you, create those personal boundaries amongst each other and support each other and just continue to love on each other no matter the situations that arise, through the podcast or individually or in life. You mentioned that you've been through similar roads in the same neighborhood, and Sarah and I were on the phone for an hour and a half, and it really felt like I was speaking to my sister. It really felt like I was speaking to someone that understood, my perspective and, confirmed that, my thoughts and my ideas were not out of the ordinary, very, mature, rational, whatever I needed at the time. I didn't have to say it because it just became so natural because of the friendship. So it's like, imagine, someone, speaking every week, and you just continuing that conversation is important, especially if someone's telling you, hey, I'm kind of going through a lot and I'm just trying to process it. Just give me some space. I'll come back when I'm ready, when I'm really ready. And if you are too persistent in that moment when they already asked, like, hey, just let me go for a little bit, I need my space. If they don't respect it, if they still try to find their own way because that's what they want to do, then that's when you have to just either have a tough conversation with them and hope they understand, or if not, they know the boundary was set, and
right.
And if not, then you have to make decisions for your own life and move forward.
Yeah, it really hit me though. Sarah, did you? I mean, it really hit me when she said, if your friends, like maybe there's a lot of people listening who kind of that's what they're getting out of our show. Like, I didn't think about that too much. I don't think that's been something very targeted, and I have exactly thought about that. But I think that very well could be an appeal for people who are kind of just needing the dialogue. They like the conversation, and we talk about how there's a lack of communication and like actually just good conversation skills anymore. A lot of times I think there's something comforting about listening to people having a good conversation. I feel like the world is very short on just good human to human conversation that's not about what's on TV, a sports team, a news headline. What's happening right there in their life, something a little bit more esoteric or deeper, or just these things, that observations, these kinds of conversations just aren't happening enough for my taste. And maybe that's just my taste, maybe. But I also know there's too many people going through things in an isolated kind of way. And this is what's creating even more problems in people's lives. They feel like they don't have that person to reach out and talk to. I just think, again, that's part of our why. I just want people to, if they're listening, to know that they're seen without being seen. We, like, humans should be able to relate to this, and how important it is that you do not keep trying to do things isolated.
Absolutely.
All the time, and that's where I think, again, podcasts are a wonderful medium for this. I really do. There's so many elderly people and housebound people or whatever that just don't have very much voice in their house.
Yeah.
Even
my mom, I can't remember which episode I had shared with her, but she had no idea how to podcast. She's like, and I'm like, well, do you want to listen? And she goes, where? And I showed her, and then I downloaded the Anchor app, and I was like, here, this is the app you can listen to for free, because she has an Android and she doesn't have a Spotify account. I said, but all the best episodes are on Spotify and Anchor. But I was technical difficulties. I was trying to figure out how to share my RSS feed to all these other platforms and thinking they go automatically, but they don't.
Nope.
So you have to manually go in. So it's you learn from your trial and your error, and to have my mom call me in the middle of a workday and say, I didn't know you were going through all that. You didn't tell me. And I'm like, how? I have to play the role as the strong one. And now she's like, when's your next episode? What is the next one about? What guests are you going to have? And, she's very involved now. She really wants to know.
Listen, it's awesome. I mean, that's actually, it's like your podcast, but it's like actually helping you potentially, or your mom, or you guys' relationship, or whatever. It's just like broadening that out, which is amazing.
My podcast has definitely helped improve my relationship with my mother.
That's awesome.
It's probably one of those things where it's like, how can you stop doing something that has brought so much light within your own life, and now it's your responsibility to share that. So it's like, for me, my why is like, I'm healing from my traumas and my insecurities and all my fears, and I want people to do the same, because I want to see everybody win. And I tell people all the time, if Healing with Ivy makes no money, like I really don't care. I do it for the community. I do it for the people. And, I feel like when you walk in with those intentions, you are lighter. You are able to approach it more authentically, more genuine.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people can't believe that, and it's like, well, that's okay. And
if it once a month, so I publish episodes once a month, so definitely it's like,
cool. I love it.
I would encourage anyone who feels like they always have to be the strong one, like you said, or that they have to hold themselves a certain way in certain circles. I would encourage you to use a podcast platform, YouTube, whatever it may be, as your sort of audio journal or video, whatever you're doing, and where you can just be yourself
Yeah.
and comfortable putting that out there, because we need that. We need to see more people and what they're going through, and that we can relate to that and put it out there, get it out there. I mean, I think, yeah, you're going to heal, you're going to have healing. It may heal relationships in your own life, like you just said, and you don't know whose life you're going to touch. So it's a great space to be yourself, and you can publish whatever you need to publish. You can say whatever you need to say, and just let it go, put it out there and see what happens. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a great opportunity, probably underutilized, even though there's so many podcasts. It's an underutilized space still, which gives
It is.
prominence.
It is. And we had a podcast where we touched on the whole thing about people tend to feel so like people will not understand what they're going through. And our whole thing was that is one of the biggest lies. Almost so many people can understand what somebody on any given day is going through. There is no human chaos or trauma that has not already happened to not just one other person in humanity, but to a ton of them. It's like one of the biggest lies that there's no one would get this, no one would understand, and that's where, things become shame. And we had a podcast where we touched on that subject, about healing and all that. And again, I just feel strongly that this medium of podcasting is a great, it's a wild frontier of expression, community, strength, advice, because it's something that's going to resonate for you. You're going to hear things that just really struck you in a way that was inspiration, and that's a great thing, where sometimes flipping the OTV channels is garbage, and it's hard to come across something where you go, whoop, stop, there might be some value in this,
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that the garbage ratio is lower in the podcast realm at this point. And that's it's a great thing. So honestly, like Sarah, that's a great idea. I mean, I can't imagine if you're a young person and you just start speaking in a mic about your heaviness, that you're not going to pile on to people at your age bracket isn't going to pile on to that sort of thank you for saying that right now. Right.
Yeah, definitely. And, to touch base on that, when you said someone young, it triggered like a thought, because I just went through that this morning, where I wasn't my best self this morning. I was hurt, and I was processing those emotions, and it was someone much younger within my family that called me up out of nowhere and was that biggest support. And it was through our conversation where we related, like, I'm giving her an insight of my experience of finishing my last year of high school. I worked 3 jobs and did high school at night just to ensure I graduated on time, because I slacked off at a certain point because there was stuff going on that I couldn't give the school the attention that it was supposed to have at that time. So I was able to make a mess. It's like teaching them how to make a mess, fix it, and the hard work that you have to do. So you don't think it comes easy just because you said, yeah, I'll do it. No, there's work once you say yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But those are the lessons we learn, that make the messes worthwhile, because you don't learn things about how to organize, get back up, be resilient, and those kinds of things. You don't learn that unless there was a mess. It's just the nature of it. We didn't make that rule. We're just, it's just the choices we have and how we cope with them. Yeah. It's what it boils down to. But no, this has been great. I personally, it's like, I feel like there's zero competition in the podcast world. Like, I could care less. Like, who has a podcast like ours, Sarah? No idea. No idea. First of all, I just have no idea. Other than scanning, for names when we were trying to name the cast, It's just not how I spend my time. I can't imagine how much time I would waste trying to find, a podcast that I thought was kind of like ours and then try and go, okay, well, what do they got doing? And what do we, I don't feel like it's like a McDonald's, Burger King kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Makes no difference. I could care not less on whoever's doing one, and good on you. If you're showing up, it's a, there's grind attached to it. It's a grind to the heart for me, but there's a grind, there's just the showing upness, and I have to show up for the blog every week too. So I have two things I got to show up. They're very timely, and so they're back to back as well. So it's a thing, right? You get in the whole, but I love it so much. I love it so much, and I never know. Somebody will text me or email me or put it the comment after my blog post sometimes is like, you have no idea how that hit me, and I'm going to be reading it over and over. I'm like, what is happening right now?
Yeah, and it's like, who am I? Like, you kind of
so great.
Like who am I in terms of my creativity, in terms of my perspective, that I'm able to connect with just one or a few. Like, even when an episode goes up for myself, I look the next hour just to make sure everything fully uploaded correctly, and it's like, oh, I got 5 listens already. Like, oh, okay.
I know it's
and what I think about, because I live in a studio apartment in Queens, New York. It's small, so that I'm excited. Be excited about every single listen, even if it's just one, even if you only have one. Be excited
Same.
because imagine if those people just walked into my apartment. That would be a lot of people to me. Be 5 people in this. We're in the bedroom portion of it of the studio, but imagine I don't have enough chairs to sit all these people. Like,
right.
That's what I'm thinking about, and it's like, oh wow. They got touched. They listened all the way through. And it's
That's
like
awesome.
Other countries like Kuwait, India, and it's just like these people are just finding me, and they're on the other side of the world. Like, it's so, like, I get so excited, and like from my own homeland, Puerto Rico, like my people are listening to me. Like, it's just so beautiful.
Oh, I know. When I just realized the whole worldwide thing, I was like, Sarah, the 2 broads have gone international, babe. We got listeners in 13 different countries. I'm like, what is happening right now?
Yeah.
It was so exciting. I'm still trying to figure out why there's 11 in Belgium. That's what I want to know.
I mean,
can we go?
Listen, can I go? We need to do.
Chocolate?
Listen, we need to. If we could find a sponsor so we could go do the 2 broad international tour to have our 5 listeners show up, I'm down for that. We could have an intimate dinner and conversation with our listeners worldwide. How exciting is that, though?
Great.
That is just, to me, like, it's a miraculous thing, and just like to be part of that just feels so darn fun. It is. And it's good. And that you're not putting out darkness. That in whatever country they heard it, you didn't put out something that made people feel heavy or dark. I love it so much. So myself, I always thought that the podcast realm would be a great fit for me. And I love what we have, what we've started. And Ivy, yours is going to do great. I think for the same reasons of when you get in just authenticity and you love it, and you're just trying to be real.
Stay out of your own head.
And you're just trying to love people.
Stay out of your own head. Give yourself the same way you were saying that you were giving yourself grace. Like, people need to harbor that.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Well, that's a great segue, because I was just going to say, let's wrap this up with our best advice for showing up and doing the thing, whether it's podcasting, whether it's YouTube, whatever somebody's wanting to do. What is our best advice, bottom line, to go out there and do it?
Make an appointment with yourself. Make an appointment, sit down with yourself, be very intentional with your why. If you don't know what your why is, don't rush it. Give yourself the opportunity to look for it and understand it, because when it does get hard, that's what you need to hold on to.
Yeah, that whole why thing, not to make it sound pithy, but it is a truth, and differently stated. What's your value behind it? What is your attachment to it that is important, right? If it's financial, that can be fine, but you have to know what it is going in. And if you're trying to, especially if you're doing something that's going to help people in a way, which most podcasts I think are somewhat geared towards that, even if it's how to do things, how to make better things, the niches of all the things people are doing podcasts on. And there's a hobby and a career there's a podcast for all of it, right? And so at the root of a lot of podcasting is about helping people, but you can't think that you have to make sure that your why is so strong. A lot of people get stuck in I don't know how to do something, but if your why is strong and you just turn on the computer the first time and go, I'm doing this, the how comes. The how will come once you just make that first step. And if your why is strong enough, you'll just keep showing back up. Honestly, jumping into podcasting or any sort of creative or media sort of endeavor is no different than anything you're trying to do in your life that's important, that you want to make that change, or you want to contribute in a way that you haven't been, or you want to switch that job, or it's no different. You have to show up, get out of your own way and show up.
Yeah.
We're all in our own way, and it's just so boring.
Yeah.
The yada yada, the worry, the fear, the this, the that. It's to a point it just seems trite.
Worried about what people are going to think. Yeah, I would tack on to that with, don't let the mistakes, or what you consider mistakes, hang you up. Don't dwell on that. Whatever technical difficulties or tech specs you do or don't have, or whatever the thing may be, if you said like an or something, I'm an ummer from the way back. I think I'm a like and an
I'm a like.
I'm a listen. I'm so annoying. I have so many annoying quirks when I listen to myself back. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever.
My words that I say a lot, because whoever's doing editing, like I'll go back and listen. It's like, absolutely. I say absolutely a whole lot, but hey, that's my word. But things like that, you showing up, don't get hung up on those things, and let your audience learn and grow with you. Let them enjoy that very human side of you. Let them see that very human side of you. I'm still struggling with this. So anyone watching this, I am still trying to let go of all the imperfections with anything I put out there in the world. But I see the value in people seeing me, and me putting my heart out there and being very real and saying, I mess up all the time, or I put things out there that I'm not perfectly happy with, but it's not all about me. And I have worries or fears of what people think. I have worries or fears about how I'm perceived, but that's natural and that's normal and that's okay. And so I want to share that with everybody, and that we can all kind of just grow together and be human together. This is very natural.
Yeah. And like I said, back to get out of your own way and be teachable,
Mm-hmm.
People think they have to show up with all the skill sets already.
Right.
I don't know why people are so mistake-phobic. Honestly, who's dodging them? Who's dodging making any mistakes?
Yeah.
I just don't even get the premise of it. It's a very weird lie.
It's
I don't like it.
Yeah. It's like, there's some podcasters, and I could speak to and I always say this, I could speak for myself. I can't speak for other people, but I know for a fact if I'm experiencing it, there at least has to be one other person that feels the same way. And for me, it's just those people that live in your mind rent free, that judge you. Sometimes those are the voices that you're hearing. You're not hearing your own insecurities. You're hearing the people that has nurtured the fact that they don't believe in you. And maybe it's time to kind of process that and kind of evict them. And once you evict them, Oh, girl.
Yes.
Woo, freedom.
Oh yeah. Yes. No, it's so much truth. And and the older you get, and if you're self-aware about that, the less and less you care.
Yeah. You gotta push it out and you gotta keep going because they're gonna be there, they're gonna creep in. You gotta be like, shut up, and then you just gotta keep going.
Because they don't even care. No one even really cares. This is the whole thing. We sacrifice pieces of our creativity for something that's in our head from 20 years ago or 5 years ago or 5 minutes ago. It interrupts our tomorrow, our right now, down the road. It's like, it's a ridiculous notion. It's certainly something we all do. It is ridiculous on its face, though. I mean, I think there's a new way to perceive that and just kind of go, I'm going to laugh at this now. Like, this is really just dumb behavior that I'm paying so much attention to. What you're saying is the rent-free headspace. Stop. What is happening right now? Right? I'm not obsessing over what somebody else is doing 24 hours and making them feel discouraged and this and that and the other thing. So I don't think you're really even doing it about me either. I just took a hold of what you said, or you've said it several times, or the looks you keep giving me, and those may be very real, but doesn't mean they have to put any value on it. They don't care. I don't care. Get out of my life. You're in my way at this point, right?
Yeah,
you're not
push them out the
you're not a planet traveler. You're a roadblock.
Yeah.
There are people that need to hear our voices. Everyone out there, anyone who's watching this, someone needs to hear your voice. So just whatever you have to do to get that out there and reach whoever needs to hear you. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right. Well, where can we find you guys? What are you into? Where do you want people to hunt you down? What do you have upcoming projects or collaborations or anything like that?
Go, Ivy.
Okay. I was trying to, I didn't know who was going first. I was, you can find me on Instagram, Healing with Ivy, and click the link in my bio and you'll find everything you need to know about me. I'm currently working, New York City, you guys.
Another shout out to the Bronx.
Yeah.
New York City, you gotta love it. You'll
I
sometimes hear this in my own podcast. I can't control where I live, but I make sure I shoot the message.
But that was the emergency that we need to go follow Healing with Ivy.
You need to,
That's right.
cut that. Somebody please cut that and send it to me. I'm gonna use that going forward in all my
There you
reels.
go. It becomes a gift. Yes.
Follow me on like I said, Healing with Ivy on Instagram. Click the link in the bio. I have amazing sketch comedy that's going to be coming out on YouTube in 2023. I'm a college student, so I have taken myself off of the wrestling stage and comedy stage to focus on my psychology career. But your girl has a scholarship, so I gotta hit the books, y'all. But the podcast Healing with Ivy is the one thing that is staying because, like I said, I want to be there for people that need someone to be there for them when they feel like they have no one.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's awesome. You're going to kill it. You're crushing it. You're going to crush it, girl.
I love how the sun is setting on you.
Haze.
I don't know if that's a sunset. You look beautiful.
That's awesome. That's like some psychedelic.
Yes, like, it's my turn. Follow.
Am I getting some sort of visual flashback situation here? Here we
Uh-oh.
Seeing if the light will reflect now.
Gods are shining.
The gods are shining through the podcast.
Just awkward. I'm just awkward.
No, you're not awkward. I think you're beautiful. I think you
well, thank you, honey.
So beautiful.
Oh,
I love the way you've I just want to love on you real quick. I'm sorry. I just love the way you've just taken your whole life on the road and just unapologetically is living a life that on your terms. I completely respect goals.
Thank you, darling. Thank you so much. I do take that to heart. I hope that, I'm just out here showing, do it. Just do you. I don't know who I'm like or trying to be, because I'm not. There's no blueprint for any of us. There's just, our hearts that we can follow or not follow, and a tribe of people we can amass or not. And I'm very big into amassing a tribe and having people to go through the human experience with. whatever I'm doing, if it entertains people, it makes people think, makes them laugh, makes them question, whatever, I feel like that's just my purpose. So I'm here for that. But I tell you, my favorite thing is just learning. I'm out on a major, just seeking tour for whatever that means. And I love people. So, me and my dog are out there striking it. We want to put out a book that will be in the voice of her. So, that's something I want to do. And I thought I was going to try and get to it this summer. It didn't happen. So that's a big Mexico project on my mind. There's other writings that have really started just, showing inspiration through me lately that I feel like are things I'm going to have to confront, maybe write down more seriously at some point. But in the meantime, my blog is lauriday@substack.com. If you're interested in following my blog, which is called Never a Normal Day. And then listen, 2 as in the number 2, as in Sarah and I, 2 broadcasters on Facebook and Instagram. And listen, just, try the cast, try little Ivy's cast. I'm going to be looking up Ivy's cast. You can find me Lauri, LAURI_day on Instagram, Lauri Day on Facebook, whatever. You don't need to personally find. If you want to, you can. You never know what you're getting there. Okay. But come on with it. Bring yourself.
That's right. And if you're watching this, you have found Coffee and Words YouTube channel. So, subscribe to YouTube, subscribe to this channel, but I'm also on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, author Sarah Jenkins, Instagram, author Sarah Jenkins. I'm on all the things. I'm on Twitter, but I hang out on Instagram. So IG and YouTube is where you can find me.
I love you ladies. This has been awesome. Thank you, Sarah.
Amazing. Thank you, Sarah, for bringing us together.
Yes.
Ivy will be in touch, okay, girl?
Yes, no, you two will definitely be in touch for season 3. I need you both.
Awesome. Okay, hey, that's awesome. I love that. We got to all help each other out. That's what it's about, my friend.
Yeah,
so
elevate each other. And I do want to give a shout out to Drew Milden with Drew versus the World podcast, who was supposed to come on today and he had something come up and he can't be here, but we want to give a shout out to Drew.
Yes.
And so go follow him and everybody just check him out and maybe he'll come back on and we'll do another show. So.
And shout out to your awesome Coffee and Words crew, Sarah. They're doing a great job.
Shout out to your crew.
Yeah.
Crew. All right, kids, I'm out.
I did one. Okay. Bye, guys. Have a great day.
Take care. You too, honey. Talk to you tomorrow, Sarah.
All right.
Talk to you later.